Need some tips on how to get your dissertation done? I've got that and more for you right now. Hey everybody, I'm Leigh from teachingacademia.com, and I'm all about giving you the tools you need to navigate academia and make your best impact. Today I have with me Dr. Ramon Goings, and he is the founder of the Done Dissertation Coaching Program, and that's exactly what you want, the Done Dissertation. So we're going to head over and hear some of the challenges and also some of the advice that he has to give so that you can successfully complete your dissertation. So let's go hear what he's got to say. Hey everybody, I am super excited today to welcome Dr. Ramon Goings from the Done, founder of the Done Dissertation Coaching Program. Ramon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we are really excited to have you here today. Ramon is going to be telling us a little bit about his coaching program. He's also, because you've got tons of experience in helping doctoral students navigate the dissertation process, we're going to be talking about some of the challenges that you commonly see and some of your really greatest pieces of advice that doctoral students can use to get their dissertation done, right? Because a good dissertation is a
done dissertation for sure.
Done dissertation. That's what we're going for, right?
Yes,
so yeah, maybe we can start with what are some of the common challenges that you see doctoral students running into when they're trying to complete their dissertation?
Sure. Oftentimes, the challenges that I see as part of the process to join the Done Dissertation Coaching Program, we have an intake process. And we ask students, well, what's troubling you with your process? The number one response we get is actually the lack of response from their dissertation chair. So I find that to be, unfortunately, a challenge in the process, feeling like they don't have necessarily guidance in that way. Along with that, because they don't have that support from their chair, the second piece that I see oftentimes is this idea of being isolated. So in the coursework, you have a group of students, you're in a class together, things are going great, and then you finish your comprehensive exam, and then your chair's like, all right, go out there and start writing your proposal. And a lot of folks feel isolated, like they don't have that accountability group or just support network when they're working on a dissertation. So it's hard to complete if you're not that type of person who likes to work alone. And then lastly, it's just, I find a lot of students, the challenge becomes confidence in writing. A lot of times we're writing papers for coursework, but then when you have to turn that switch to write for the dissertation, it's a slightly different and a slightly different purpose. And then making that transition can be difficult and challenging. And so without that type of support from, encouraging faculty members or peers or someone in your network, it can be a challenge. And I find those are the main challenges I see so far.
So there's a lot of things that as a doctoral student you can control, right? Like you can set up a schedule and a routine and you can send your things out for advice and help and feedback. But your first point about some students are having a hard time getting their dissertation chair to follow up with them and give them timely feedback and answer their questions, that's out of your control as a student. So what do you recommend people do with that if they run into that problem?
Yeah, a lot of times with my clients, we kind of operate as sometimes a ghost chair where we're trying to push our clients along the process while they're waiting on feedback. So let's say chapter 1, they're waiting on feedback. We're already preparing chapter 2, outlining and then writing, so that when you get feedback from 1, we're working while in tandem working with chapter 2. So it's always kind of like staying a step ahead of where their committee has your document. I think that's really been helpful for folks. So you're just not sitting there with this idle time for, say, 3 weeks when you could be working towards something else.
Right. So just keeping that ball rolling, keeping everything in the pipeline going along smoothly. So, all right. So those are some of the common challenges that people can expect to run into. What are your great 3 pieces of advice, right? If a student sat down with you and said, I'm writing my dissertation, what are the top 3 things I need to know to help me finish?
So one thing I've learned, so a lot of our clients are actually leaders, whether they're higher education leaders working on a doctorate or K through 12 principals. And so what I've found from working with these folks who are busy running essentially their own business in a way, a small operation, what I've learned from them, the one piece of advice is be selfish with this time to finish. A lot of folks we're managing various things, responsibilities probably as a graduate assistant, work if we're working full time, but really carving out, if it's 30 minutes a day, to keep working your dissertation. I find that those who are consistent with the time, regardless if it's 15 minutes while your kids are at practice, or, that time between meetings, if you're just carving out that time every day to work, you'd be surprised at how fast you can write and finish a dissertation when it's constantly on your brain.
It adds up, right?
Yeah,
like all those, I think that's the one thing people don't necessarily realize is like these little baby steps eventually, at first it seems maybe overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it might seem like, does this 30 minutes really matter? Does this hour really matter? But if you keep chipping at it, it adds up and it gets you where you need to be.
Yeah, it does. I see it as the dissertation, let's say a document's 200 pages. I don't think about the whole of it, but I think about it as small 3 to 5 page papers. I think that's more manageable. You know, we have a section like today, I'm going to focus on this section, which I may need 1 to 2 pages. I think that everyone, when they see it broken down in a smaller piece, I think it's manageable. It's not this behemoth of a document.
Yeah.
And so with that, I think it's important because of the isolation, it's always important to have an accountability partner in some way. Whether that's a classmate, in some ways, as a part of our coaching program, we serve as accountability partners for our clients who just need someone with them, working with them weekly to kind of keep them up to pace on what am I doing? Is this looking good? How is my writing? So they always feel confident that each week I'm getting some advice and I'm kind of moving forward in the process. Particularly at the proposal stage, I think when people get stuck there, I think if they get past the proposal and defending that, they feel more confident and they're ready to go. Because at that point, I find that's where the fun begins. You're actually collecting data and engaging in research. So I think that piece, having some form of accountability. And then lastly, my advice is to, with this accountability partner or group, to engage in I call it the 3-tier process. You need to first read. So constantly reading on your topic, along with reading to write. So engaging in this process. And sometimes reading is not only on your topic, but in different disciplines outside. Because sometimes as writers, we just need different inspiration. So I always tell folks to read outside of their content area. And then along with the writing part, have conversation. So I think when we start combining the reading, writing, and conversation, you become stronger in all 3 and it improves your writing and gives you different ways to think about it. And I find that those who do that part of that process really outpace those who don't have the opportunity to engage in that conversation with other people.
I think that's that reading, writing, conversation. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody put all 3 of those together like that, but I think that's a really valuable piece of advice because they each of those things help you think about your work a little bit differently and interact with it differently. So I know if you and I start having a conversation about our work, if I'm telling you about my work, you might have this really great insight for me, but even if you didn't, just talking through it with you might be that thing that sort of helps me have an epiphany in a way that reading or writing, maybe didn't. So I think bringing all 3 of those together, that's a really great suggestion.
Yeah, we have all these ideas stuck in our head, and it's like, I need you to get from what's in your head out to someone and then onto the paper. And then once it's on the paper, it's just a matter of editing and refining what you have. But if it's stuck in your head, there's no way for us to work with it at that point.
Yeah. So you are the founder of the Done Dissertation Coaching Program. Can you tell everyone a little bit about that? What if they sign up for it, what kinds of services they can expect, what that looks like?
Yeah, so we provide currently one-on-one coaching for doctoral students at various phases in your dissertation journey. I would say a half of our students are right now in the comprehensive exam phase, and they're just looking for advice or suggestions how to structure. So we provide one-on-one coaching for that. And then once you transition to working on your dissertation proposal, it's just really being that kind of accountability partner. And we meet weekly with our clients, depending on the package that you get. There's different number of coaching sessions per month that you can work with us with. But I'm finding initially when folks start with us, they usually tend to meet weekly. And then as they build that confidence in that writing and have someone to think through, they kind of scale back and they start every, bi-weekly working with us. But again, we're providing not only suggestions while we're on our phone calls, but also we're providing edited feedback. So when they submit something to us, we actually give them written feedback, and then that helps guide our coaching sessions.
So the one thing that, I'm always cautious about when I'm not the dissertation chair and a student emails me and says, would you give me feedback on X? I always want to know, does your advisor know that you're asking me to do this? Because I don't want to do something that's going to be in direct conflict with your advisor or create a problem for you. So how do you think about the dissertation chair and their role in relation to the feedback and help that you might give people that are in the program?
Sure. I find that when I first start working with the clients, it's me figuring out their chair a little bit to understand what the process is or how they're thinking through their paper. Because I always say, I want to defer to your chair because this is how they're leading the paper. I just want to be a supportive guide on the side. And so really, it's like I tell them that your chair is leading this. So let's figure out get their feedback first, always. And then let's come back and unpack. Because sometimes it's just a matter of, does the person understand what their chair is trying to tell them? Mm-hmm. And sometimes for me, it's just helping them unpack that. And then they're able to kind of do and apply whatever their chair is asking. So we're always working in in conjunction with the chair, not in opposition to.
Right.
Yeah, I'm always mindful of that, just thinking of my own students. And I always tell people, it'd be good if you reach out to your chair, just let them know that you're actually working with someone to get some support in addition to, just so that it's put out there. I think that's important.
And I think that's nice, like if you help them sort of think through the feedback that they've gotten, because sometimes when you get feedback, it's hard to process it, or sometimes we take it a little personally, even though it's not. Sometimes you could be saying the exact same thing that the chair said, but hearing it from somebody else lets you actually hear it, right? You might be more open to hearing a different party explain what that feedback looks like.
Yeah, I just had an experience with like that today with the client before we jumped on the call, is that they received feedback in the past from their chair that said, this is fluff in the paper. And I don't think they liked that language, but then when they sent something to me and I looked at it, I said, well, had you considered these questions? What you wrote doesn't really get at what they're asking. And they're like, oh, this is fluff. I'm like, yes, exactly what your chair said, but it just phrased differently and maybe a different eye on it kind of confirms sometimes what their chair has said.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. So we're going to have in the show notes, we're going to have a link to your coaching program, right, to the website, so people can get more information about it. They can sign up. They can, I'm assuming there's an email or a way to contact you if they have questions about it that they will find there. And then we're also going to put a link into your Twitter handle as well, right? So people can also connect with you that way. So thank you, Ramon, for being on here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.